Guys, was doing some research and I came across something like this. Trading using moon cycles. I mean, trading around moon cycles? Really? Wonder if they print money on the moon like they do in the US. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about two key levels that are very interesting and probably much more useful for you to identify entry points and potential exit points for your trading strategies, and hopefully make better decisions with your portfolio than using, the moon. So, more specifically, I'm going to be talking to you about support and resistance levels.
It's the resistance.
Essentially what they are, how you can use them in your trading strategies, and how we can use Python in order to determine them on your favorite stocks. Let's get into it, shall we? Support and resistance are key price levels, or better, price ranges, where usually the price stock inverts its trend. In a simple way, this means that when the price rises and then inverts and goes down, this high point would become a resistance level. On the other hand, when the price goes down and then rises again, this lowest price would become a support level. And these support and resistance levels identify essentially supply and demand zones where traders most of the time expect increased trading volume and an increased market interest. Traders very often focus on when the price gets closer to a key level, such as a resistance or a support level, because they want to see how the market reacts to these levels. There are many interesting events that happen around these inversion levels. For example, the market could bounce, making room for successful mean reversion strategies. And on the other hand, the market could break through a key level, which would make room for successful breakthrough strategies. However, volatility complicates many of these things. It's not very super clear where these resistance and support levels, or rather ranges, are. In reality, in real trading, traders always consider trading ranges rather than an exact point on the chart. These key ranges are usually as wide as volatility, and you could identify them by using those key levels and applying average true ranges or perhaps standard deviations to them to identify a better range, a price range, where these support and resistance levels are. In this video, I will show you how to use Python to work your way through a candlestick chart and check for the highs and lows of every single candlestick. Essentially, if a candle's low is lower than both the previous and the next candle's low, that would make it a support level. And this price action pattern would be called a swing. Unfortunately, this pattern has flaws due to the noise coming from market volatility. And to improve on that, I will use fractals instead, which are essentially indicators on candlestick charts that identify reversal points in the market. Basically, a fractal is a candlestick pattern made of 5 candles. And in this example, looking at this downward trend, we might be able to find a support level. Or on the other hand, this upward trend here, where we could potentially find a resistance level. Fractals are very useful because they remove some of the noise shown by these swings and allow us to identify key levels with more accuracy. So for this project, I will use Google Colab, and we will have to install a couple of packages. In this case, we will pip install Y Finance and pip install AMPL Finance, which I already did, and is why it's telling me that the requirement is already satisfied. And next, we will have to import all the required libraries that we need. And for that, I will copy paste that in. I have that here, and there we go. We will need to import pandas as PD in order to work with our DataFrame. We will also import NumPy as NP to work with data arrays. We will obviously import Y Finance to obtain the stock data. We will import MPL Finance, and from that we'll use the candlestick chart. And we will import dates from matplotlib and pyplot in order to plot the data. We will also cast some settings for this. We will set our parameters. The figure size, we'll set it to 12.7, and we will set the font size to 14. Next, I will have to cast an empty variable called ticker, and we will use AMD as the stock example for this case. And we will say that our ticker is equal to yfinance.ticker, and we'll pass into it our ticker. And then we will say that our start date will be equal to, and we'll start from the 1st of November 2021, and we'll say that our end date is equal to the 10th of January 2022. Next, we will store the data we need into a data frame, and we'll say that our df is equal to ticker.history, and we want it for an interval period of every day, 1D. And we will give it a start date, which is equal to our start date, and we'll say that the end is equal to the end date. Then we'll say that our df date, the column date from our data frame, will be equal to pandas.toDateTime to convert it to datetime format, and we'll say that this will be the index of our data frame. Next, we'll say that our date column in our data frame is equal to df date, and we will apply to this MPL dates from our MPL dates package, date to num, to convert the date to the format that we want. And we'll say that our df is equal to df.lock, and we will keep only the columns that we want, which for this case will be the column date, the column open, the column high, the column low, and the column close. And that's to show you the data frame. This is how it looks like. As you can see, it has the columns that we chose to keep. It's indexed by date, and it has the open, the close price, and the highs and the lows for these periods. Next, we will comment in here that we want to create two functions to identify or to calculate if a level is a support or resistance level. And we will say that our first function will be define is support level, and this will take in a data frame and an I to iterate upon. And we will say that our support is going to be our data frame column low at position I. And we will check if this is smaller than our data frame column low at position I minus 1. And we will also check if our data frame low at position I is lower than our data frame low at position I minus, or rather I plus 1. And we will also check if our data frame low at position I plus 1 is smaller than our data frame low at position I plus 2. And we will do a last check and check if our data frame low at position I minus 1 is smaller than our data frame low at position, in this case, I minus 2. All right. And we will return support. Our second function, we call it is resistance level, which will also take in a data frame and an I for iteration purposes. And we will say that our resistance is equal to, we can copy the entirety of the code above, and we'll just replace the low with high everywhere, copy paste this, that, this one, this one, this one, and that one. And we will have to change the signs to check if instead it's lower, if it's larger and larger here, and larger there, and also larger here. We will return resistance to finish this function. Oops. And next, up next, we will say that our levels will be equal to an empty list. There we go. And we will say that for I in range 2 to df dot shape 0 minus 2, and there is a small typo here, 4, and we will loop through this range, and we'll say that if is support, we'll call our function here, and we'll pass in our data frame and our I, and we'll say that the levels append, and we will append to this a tuple, and we say that it will take in I and our df low level into at position I into our levels list. Essentially, we're creating a list of tuples to then pass into our final chart and create our support and resistance levels. Elif, we will say, we will test for is a resistance level, and we will pass in our df and our I iteration, and we'll say that our levels dot append, and we will append to our levels, in this case also a tuple for I and df, but in this case our high at position I. And that should be it. Organizing a bit the code. Next, we will define a new function, and we will say that this will be our plot levels, which is a function where we will plot our levels, and we will say that here our figure x will be equal to plot.subplot, and we will say that our candlestick OHLC will take in our x and our df dot values, and we will give it a width of 0.6, and we will give it a color of, color up will be green for the candlesticks that are upwards, and color down will be equal to red for the color sticks on a downward trend. We'll give it also an alpha, and we'll say the alpha will be equal to 0.8. Next, we will say that our date format will be equal to MPL dates, date formatter, oops, small typo here, and we will pass into this the format of the date that we want, which will be day first, and then the short version of the string of the month and the large year. And we will say that x.axis, or rather x-axis, dot set major formatter, and we'll pass our date format into this. Next, we will say that our fog.auto fmt underscore xdate, our fig, sorry, and we will say that our figure will be in a tight layout, and we will do a small loop where we say that for level in levels, and we will plot the H lines through these levels, and we'll pass in the level at position 1. And we will say that our X min value will be our data frame date at position level, position 0. which is the date where our chart will start. And we'll give also an x max. And we will say that the maximum value of the dates on the x-axis will be equal to our data frame, or rather our max value of the data frame. And we'll pass in data frame dates column for it to check for the max value. And we'll also tell that the colors of these H lines should be blue. And we will call our figure in order to see it. And to show you what this does, we will call this function and see if everything is working out well. Let's execute. We might have had a little error. Yes, we had. Width, we've misspelled width, of course, so let's change that to width with proper spelling. There we go. Let's execute this. We can see the candle chart, but we can still not see the lines. We have another small mistake. There we go. This is .date formatter, and if we execute now, there we go. This shows us our candlestick chart for the data frame that we imported from Yahoo Finance for AMD, and we have plotted nicely all the resistance and supports level as H lines in the chart. As you can see, we've detected quite a lot of major rejection levels here, but there's a lot of noise from all the swings. Some levels are either too close to others, either in range or in time, and should essentially be the same level. What we can do is we can clean this noise a bit by modifying the function that detects these key levels. And a way to do this is if a level is too close to another, then we just tell the function to discard it. So to do that, it comes basically down to what too close means. In this case, we could say that the level is too close to another if the distance is less than, let's say, the average candle size in the chart. For example, we could say the average difference between high and low prices in any given candle, which would be the same as saying the mean price. What this would give is a rough estimate of volatility, which we will use to essentially clean up the chart and remove this noise and hopefully have a clearer view on the resistance and support levels that we really want to be looking at. So let's remove some of the noise, shall we? I've added a small comment saying clean noise in data by discarding a level if it is near another level. An example, if the distance to this next level hypothetically is less than the average candle size in the chart, which would be the same as giving it a rough estimate of volatility. So to do that, we will cast a new variable and we'll say that the mean is equal to np.mean. And in here, we'll check the mean in the df high column, and we'll subtract from it our df lows. We call the mean. We can show you that the mean in this case would be approximately 7.23. Next, we will create a new function, and we will call this define distance from level, and we'll pass into it a x, and we will return our numpy.sum, and we will sum the absolute value of x minus y. And from this, we will check if this value is smaller than the mean for each y in levels. There we go. And we'll check if this is 0 to return whether it's true or false. Next, we can copy this piece of code here to reuse it. So we'll copy it out and we'll come down here and we will paste it. And we will start by removing this and saying that y will be equal to our data frame, our low column at position y. And if distance, we call here distance from level function, and we'll pass into it our variable y, and we'll say if this is, or rather, let's call it x instead to make it simpler, and we will say our levels.append, and we will append to it again a tuple, and we will append to it our I and our X value. And if we will check for is resistance level, and we'll check if the resistance level, and we'll give it our data frame and I, and if it is a resistance level, we will cast our X value again, and we'll cast into this our high column this time at position I, and again we will say that our levels, or rather if distance from level, and we'll pass into it our X value. And if this returns true, we will append to our levels another tuple with our Y, or rather with I in it, and X. There we go. Next, delete this only, and again, re-enter the spaces, one space here, a space here, and a space here. We will finish this by calling our plot levels, and we will print out the levels as well so that we can see them nicely in our chart. There we go. As you can see, we have only 4 levels this time, which is much cleaner with a lot less noise, which means you have 2 support levels and 2 resistance levels to check out at these 4 different levels here. Let's add a bit more functionality to the code. Let's try and get a title to our chart, and instead of printing out the levels right next to the resistance support levels that we're plotting in our charts. So to do that, we can come here and create a new empty list called level type, which will end up being a list saying if it's a support or resistance level. And we can come to our support levels function, and we'll add level types.append support in case it is a support level, and we can copy this down here and replace with resistance in case it is a resistance level. We will want to add an additional loop in here, which is our level type, and we will zip this in order to pass in the 2 lists, levels and our level types list. And a little typo here, correcting that. Next, we will plot the text next to the resistance and support levels, and we will say that this is our data frame date start point at position level 0, and that the other coordinate is level 1, and we will pass into the text we want to see a string composed by the level type, if it's support or resistance, and we'll add to this a little semicolon with a space, and on top of that we'll add to it our level at position 1, and we'll finish the string with a small little space to give some room between the text and the level line, and we'll say that our HA will be equal to right in order to align it to the right, and we will say that our VA will be equal to center in order to have this all nicely centered. Our font weight on this will be bold, and we will also give it a font size of, let's say, X small, slightly smaller than small. We will want also to plot a title, and we will plot a title, and we'll give it a string called support and resistance levels for, and we'll pass into it dynamically our ticker symbol. And we'll give it a font size of 24, and we will also give it a font weight of bold. There we go. If we replot it, it shows us nicely all the resistance and support levels dynamically right next to the resistance support level lines, which is a much nicer way to chart this data. Now let's also remove some of the noise from our volatility chart, and we'll start that by Passing our level types variable here as an empty list. And on top of that, we have to say, let's change this to level to make it a little bit more cleaner to read. And we'll replace this X with level. Here we'll remove X and replace it by level. In the mean here also replace X by level, and here as well. Next, we have to level types dot append support if it is a support, because we are checking for the support level above. And if it's here under the resistance level, we will level types dot append our resistance. And if we plot this, there we go. It gives a super clean plot, a candlestick chart with our 2 support and 2 resistance levels and the actual price levels around them. So if we wanted to improve this, this is the part where we would apply a true average range or a standard deviation on top of these levels to, instead of having just a line, identify resistant ranges or support ranges instead of just a simple level line for one price level. Okay, so I hope this wasn't too confusing. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. You can also contact me via social media. I'm going to leave my account down below on the screen. Guys, I appreciate you so much for watching. If you have not already dropped a like down below for the YouTube algo, please remember to do so. It helps out so much. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you like content like this. And as always, I will see you very soon. Take care.